Hi guys, it's Emily here again, and we're kind of just plugging away at our first layout here. So far, we've had our background paper, we've added photos, we've added some frames to those photos, and that's kind of where we left off. Right here, we've got Holly in that gorgeous frame, and then we've matted these two photos. And this tutorial is going to be about adding embellishments. And the embellishments, or elements, sometimes they're called, is any of those extra things that just adds that artistic element to your layout. And it's everything from these little paper flowers to these buttons, this little tag with the crown on it, down here another flower and a button, and eventually we'll get to adding this tab here and this kind of pretty scalloped edge over here, this vellum scroll kind of look here, and this little journaling box. Those are all embellishments, and you can really add as many embellishments as you want, or you can have a page that's embellishment free. It really has to do with your own personal scrapbooking style. I tend to be a moderate embellisher, meaning I don't put a ton of embellishments on my pages, but I definitely like a few just to add that kind of touch to my layout. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding these embellishments, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how to make them a little more lifelike. And that's actually going to be the last tutorial, is how to add drop shadows and make these elements really pop and look 3D. So I'm going to minimize this and go to our kind of work in progress layout here that we've been working on. And I'm going to go all the way to the top of my layers palette, so all of my elements come in on the top, because all of them are going to be located up here on the top of all of my pictures and items, and so I don't want them to come in hiding underneath the paper, because sometimes you can open an element and it ends up opening underneath a piece of paper and you're like, where'd it go? And it's just sometimes kind of an expedition to try and find it. So most of the elements that I'm using are from the Heartfelt kit, where we've gotten the papers and items. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate on my computer where that is. And again, the kits come with so many choices when it comes to embellishments. And so I'm just going to kind of go through here and pick a few. And I'm going to hold down my command key and pick all of the items that I want. And as long as I keep my command key pressed, I can highlight all of the elements or embellishments that I would like. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit more and try to find my cute little paper flowers. So we'll take a pink one and a pink one and a green one. And then we'll go ahead and click open. And Photoshop is going to open all of those, kind of tiling them like that. It kind of looks like, it reminds me when we used to play solitaire. So we've got them all here. And again, these are each their own document right now, and you need to drag them over. So I'm going to hit the move tool, and we're going to drag that flower over. And then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to name it Pink Flower, just so then I can keep track. Then I'm going to close that pink flower, do the next one, and we might have to name this Pink Dot Flower so we can differentiate. And then I'm going to close each one and drag a new one over, name it. And this can be a pretty quick process. I'm not worried just yet where they're all going at this point. I'm just placing them in there. And then once I've got them all on my document, I will then move and do all sorts of, where do I want them? Do I want to cluster them? Do I want to have them overlapping? What are all the options I have? I mean, that's the cool thing about embellishments is, oops, I didn't spell button right. Oh, well. Embellishments, you can pretty much do whatever you want. And if you don't like it, you can delete it. It's no big deal. That's, again, another kind of beautiful thing about digital scrapbooking. And we'll do our final one here, our cute little green flower that already has a button on it. And we'll say green flower button. So now I've got all of these labeled here, and it'll just make moving them around a lot easier. So I already know that I want to do some clustering of some elements here. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of cluster the elements that I think I'm going to want. And I already know that these are too big, so I'm going to resize by holding down Shift and grabbing one of my corners. I'm going to check that I'm okay with that change. I'm going to make this one a little smaller as well. And then again, we're kind of clustering here. Now, if you decided that you wanted this green flower to be underneath that pink flower, you would just have to come over here in your layers palette and drag it underneath. And then you see, boom, it's underneath, which I think I actually kind of like that. Kind of separate the two pinks. And then I'm going to actually put a button. I'm going to move my green flower first, I know. And I realize I have to rearrange my layout a little bit because I should have a little room here to put my tag. But I think everything is maybe a little big. So I might have to do some resizing, but we'll put her down there for now. And then I know this little beige button is going to go down there as well. So we'll tuck that in there. And obviously, we don't want that button as big as that flower. So I'm just going to zoom in here a little bit. And I'm going to resize my button so it's kind of more of a realistic size for that button. And then we'll zoom back out. I want to put this green button on this pink flower. And again, the button is way too big. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. Look how realistic that button looks. That is amazing. And I'm going to just resize it so it's kind of in the center of our little flower there. Then I'm going to zoom back out, find my pink button. I'm going to drag it down here, resize it quite a bit to fit on our green one there. And you'll notice that pink button should probably be underneath the pink dot flower. You'd have to make a decision about that. Again, you want your layers to look as realistic as possible. And then this whole little cluster here is obviously a little bit too big. It just for some reason is not quite sitting right. I kind of like the way it looks, but it's a little big. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to highlight all the layers associated with this cluster. So I'm going to take the pink flower and I'm going to hold down my command button and I'm going to choose the green, the pink button, the pink dot flower, and the green button. Now they are all selected and I can now resize them as an entire group. So they resize uniformly there. And then I'm just going to slide this up just a tad. So it's kind of the center anchor point to my 3 photographs. And so there we've added a bunch of flowers and buttons, embellishments. One of this tag, I would like it to be underneath, sticking right there. And obviously it's not. So we have to take our crown tag and drag it underneath. I'm going to make it a little turned a little bit like so. And there we've got our little crown tag sticking out. One of the next embellishments that we're going to add is in the sprout kit, and that's that really cool vellum kind of journaling space. And I always like to journal on my digital layouts. I always like to tell the story. And when I was a paper scrapbooker, journaling, I was just terrible at it because I always kind of thought of it last. And I'd be like, oh, I'll type that later. And then I never did. So it's one of those things now that I'm a digital scrapbooker, I'm so much better at doing it right when I get the chance. And you can see our vellum is kind of hidden back there. And we want it to come down about like so. We want it to kind of peek through and show our journaling under here. It doesn't look exactly like this one. I think I have to do a little resizing of my pictures, but everything's a little big right now. But there's our little vellum journaling tag. So that's some basic embellishment adding. Again, you can go crazy with embellishments or you can have kind of a light hand with embellishments. The cool thing about digital kits is they often come with a lot of options. And if I wanted more than one pink flower, I can have more than one pink flower. I can have as many as I want. That's the other neat thing about that. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to do clipping masks. A lot of people would think it's not a basic scrapbooking skill, but it's one I cannot live without. So I'm going to show you how to do it, and that'll be in the next tutorial. Thanks.